Hey everyone, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I'm your host, Josiah, aka Mahler67, and with me, as always, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I spent most of my day sleeping because I didn't get home until 3 o'clock in the morning last night.
Ooh.
Yeah.
VTM?
Yeah.
Mm.
Got done around 12ish. We all went to the place, ate some food, started talking. Next thing I know, it's 1:30 in the morning. I had to drive home and take my friend Marcus home as well. So life is life, man. It's just how it is. And so I woke up at 8 in the morning today, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm up right now. And then fell back asleep till 12. And then what's funny enough is I got up for 2 hours, played some games. I got some food. I ordered some food, and then mom called, and she wanted to talk, and so I laid down in the bed and started talking to her. And the second I hung up, I passed out again, and I woke up at 6, and I was like, "What happened?" It was one of those days.
Yeah, she was with me when you called her, so
Okay.
when she called you, so yeah.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a situation of I was so tired, but I couldn't get myself to sleep longer than so many hours each time. And I just the day basically went away instantly because I was just sleeping the whole time. And even now I don't feel all that great. I kind of want to keep sleeping. Just one of those recovery days. Yeah, no, was it my freaking everything went wrong yesterday pretty poorly when it comes to my car. So you already know about the door, right? The door will not open on the passenger side because the little rod thing that connects the handle to the locking mechanism fell off or broke, and so I have to get that taken care of, which means they have to pull off the siding and then fix it and then put it back on. But then yesterday my car was like, hey, because of all the coldness that has been going on and off, you need to refill up your tires. Your tires are low. So I'm like, okay, I have a self pump. I get the self pump. I've been charging it for the last couple days. I take it outside, hook it up. It says it's dead. And I'm like, why is it dead? I've been charging you for the last 4 days. This makes no sense. This sucks. So then I got in my car, drove to the gas station, filled up gas, looked over at the air pump, and it was filled with 6 to 7 cars in front of me that are doing the exact same thing. And I was like, why is this happening to me? Fill it up, start driving to pick up my friend, go to make a left turn signal, hit my blinker, and blinker's just going click, 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 click. Apparently my back left blinker's now out. And so I'm like, this just sucks. So I have to take my car in to be repaired sometime this week for both the door, the blinker. I have to change my oil because it's a little past due on that, and I have to try to get my transmission looked at as well. So it's like, oh, that's great. I'm gonna be dropping $500+ this month, so that's perfect. So that's basically been my week, Austin. Hopefully you had better week to a degree.
Oh man. Yeah, kind of, maybe. No, I just been really busy. This week we had our annual Halloween party at the school that I work at.
Okay.
And it was a nightmare. It was just too busy. When kids have sugar, it's not, sometimes it can be okay, but most of the time they get out of control. So
yeah,
that's what happened a lot of the time. I experienced my first bite ever.
was it the bite of A7?
Yeah, it was the old bite of the 87. No, one of them latched down upon me, but then I kind of knew how to get out of it because I was trained to do it. And I was like, no, I don't think so. We're not doing that. That on top of that, I had so much busy work to do. On Friday when I got off work, I had to go home real quick, pick up something, and then I had to drive an hour away to a wedding rehearsal because I was officiating for a wedding. That was Sydney's best friend's wedding. And then I had to go up Saturday. Then Saturday came, and I I replaced my front headlight because my headlight that I originally had, the LED went out and it was like taking on water. So I was like, I'll replace it when I get the money. Well, I finally had some money, so I replaced it and I put everything in there and I was like, oh yeah, dude, pretty good. You know, like
pretty good. Everything works.
Well, because like I was kind of like, so the buddy that I usually help do my cars, you know him, you know, I was like, hey man, I might need your help. I watched a video and I might have to take the bumper and the grill and like, you know, everything off just to get to that light. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, usually the bumper is like connected with the bottom of the headlight now, like in newer cars. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But then I watched a video of some guy doing it with just taking a little bit of the grill off and then putting it on. So I tried it that way and it worked. And I was like, yeah, great. That's awesome. Put it in, drove all the way up to Marion, which is an hour away, did the officiating, went to the wedding, and then I got in my car and it was about like, you know, it just got dark and I was like, oh, okay. And I turn on my car and the beam is like boop, like right on the road, right like this, and it's not like up so I can see. So this headlight got me home the whole time. So I got home and I was like, oh, I'll just adjust it. So I was trying to adjust it with the nuts and I was like, oh, well, I got to retake all this off. So I took it all off again. And this is like late, you know, this is like 9 o'clock at night. And I had my lights on so I could readjust and see how I was like, this isn't working. Like, why is it not? My battery died because I forgot to start the car. So my battery died when me and mom were trying to fix my light, like adjust my light. I was like, oh my gosh, my wife finally got home from the wedding and then she jumped my car and I was driving around, make sure, you know, because you got to recharge the battery because it's dead. And I was driving around. And I text my buddy, I was like, yeah, man, like maybe you might have to show me what those nuts do or whatever sometime. He's like, well, I'm out in the shop. You just stop by real quick. And I was like, okay. And I show up and I was telling him about it. And he was like, hold up. And he goes in, like grabs a screwdriver and there's like another plastic nut, like right next to the other nuts. And he's like, this is the adjuster. What were you thinking this was? I was like, oh, I thought that was the adjuster. He's like, no, that's the position of the headlight, which you did great. He's like, you did good. But, and then he just turns it 3 times and the headlight goes boop. And I was like, I was so upset. Like, it was like one of those like dumb things where I should have been like, why didn't I just try to look this up like I did with the headlight? And it just assumed that that was the nuts that I needed. So I kind of felt dumb there for a minute. On top of that, I haven't been getting good sleep either. You know, like I've been getting good sleep, but like I'm waking up every once in a while because my dog and wife are notorious at. So here's the bed here, and she sleeps here, and the dog sleeps like right in the middle right here, and I sleep right here. And she'll pull the covers. It'll go off of me. I'll be like, oh, that feels good, you know, because I'm like hot sometimes. And then Ralph will go, oh, she moved. And if you've ever seen a dog like do that, he pulls the covers too. So then I'm asleep and then I'll wake up being cold and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so cold, you know, and then I have to pull the covers, like fight for the covers again. And like, it was like, I do that like 3 times a night. And I finally came up with a solution because I need to get sleep, better sleep. So I'm just going to put like an extra blanket like right here next to the bed. So when that happens, I'm just going to reach down, grab the blanket, put it on me and be like, going back to bed. Moving on.
Here's the funny thing, man. Like we joke about this, right? I remember Grandpa and our grandma had 2 separate beds. I'm like, yo, man, they had it right. Like they were smart about it. The idea of just having 2 separate beds, and then if they ever want to sleep together, they just push the beds together and like lock them in. I'm like, that's the smart decision. They were good.
Yep.
Because gosh dang it, do I hate sleeping with other individuals.
Yep.
Like freaking I get so upset. My cat Molly, whenever like I'm laying and like sleeping, and then she'll be like, oh, I'm going to lay like at your legs, and then if I turn slightly, she then readjusts closer to me. And it's like, no, Molly, I'm not trying to like permanently sleep to this side. I'm trying to sleep. Like, I'm just moving a little bit. And then she's like, yeah, but, and then she's wet. Why are you wet? I'm like, yeah, but like, I'll wake up and I'll start like vertical, right? And then by the time I wake up, I'm like this because she keeps moving and I don't like the feeling of that. And so I keep like I just, my head will be exactly where I'm at normally, but my feet will be up against the wall. And I'm like, why you do this to me, Kay? Also, I think I summoned her by just saying her name. And so now she's in my face. But those are all parts of things that help us get sleep and not get sleep. Austin, speaking of sleep, we are talking about a show that I was only aware of because of, like, I watch Markiplier and whatnot, and then he posted like, hey, this show's coming out. I can't tell you when it's coming out. I just know it's going to come out. It'll come out on the 18th. And he's like, the plan is for everyone to watch it, blah, 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 blah. It comes out on the 15th. They preemptively release it with no information. And I'm on TikTok and someone's just like, it's out now. It's out on Amazon Prime. Get to it. The plan's active now. Go, go. And so I binged it that whole week because all 6 episodes were out. And so, yeah, like after I watched it, I'm like, hey, that was a pretty good, like, psycho horror that I'm like, maybe Austin would like watching it too. So that's why I had us watch it after it finished. Austin, I have to ask, what did you think of Edge of Sleep?
So I actually knew about this. I only knew about this because there's a streamer that I follow regularly, and he talked about this. And he actually,
was his name Markiplier? No.
No, his name is. Everyone knows him as Moist Critical or Penguin.
Yeah.
Charlie. Charlie had a review on it, and he was like, "By gosh, he's like, it was late at night." And I was like, hey, someone told me that the Markiplier show came on. And he's like, so I decided to just be like, hey, I'll watch 2 episodes of 20 minutes each, before I go to bed. And he goes, by God, I didn't go to bed. I watched all 6 episodes. So then I was like, oh. And I saw that, like, I think it was a week ago. And when I heard it was Markiplier, I was like, oh. Sooner or later, I was like, I'm not going to say anything. Joe's going to probably get me to watch it. So I didn't know anything about the show going into it. Until later on, after I watched the show, I did some research on it, and I found out there was a podcast that was part of this that made this who it is, and the ending's different supposedly.
Yeah,
like
they changed a couple things from the podcast to the show, just to
I haven't
dodge a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the podcast yet. I have looked up the podcast, and it's like maybe I think they said 3.5 hours long.
It's just a short. It's a very short series.
Short story. So
that's basically it. Yeah, it's a short story.
Yeah, so like I like psychological horror, and man, do I love psychological horror. So what I mean by that is I like the aspect of, a lot of people like jump scares. A lot of people like this type of thing where it's like, what's the thing that's going to make the loudest noise to scare me out of nowhere?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. There's some good movies I've watched before that I'm like, hey, that's good. That's fun. But when it comes to horror, I love horror that it comes down to, this is my favorite genre of it. Psychological, just it's messing with your head in a way. Like you're wondering what's going on, like what's happening, what's going to go happen next, what kind of form of, is this really a dream? Is this like something like crazy? Because like the thing is like when they start at the beginning where he starts seeing those dreams of like those people and like the
dream people
and everything, you're just like, whoa. The first thing that came to my mind was like something out of a lot of horror films that I've seen where they've had dreams about like these ceremonies that people are having, like to sacrifice someone. And you're like, oh, well, that's kind of weird that someone's thinking about that. That's how Midsummer is. Like a lot of people don't like Midsummer. I'm okay with Midsummer. It's one of the movies where I'm like, because I do like Ari Aster, which Ari Aster did Hereditary, which is a phenomenal movie. It's like one of the best psychological thrillers, like horror of all time, and I love it. And watching this, it kind of made me feel like that. And what was great about the show, what I will say is great about the show, is the production value is really good. Like it was a really cheap production, but I felt like it held up pretty well. Yeah. There was some times where like the acting kind of like veered a little bit, because like you're not getting the biggest actors, but
yeah. You know what? I'll say, of all the actors, I think there is a couple moments where I felt like Mark or Mark Fishbach or whatever you want to go by. I feel like sometimes, and like I'm a fan of Mark, right? I like him. Yeah. I do very much feel like sometimes it felt like he was just reading a line versus like acting. I felt like that. Best friend was like that. I felt that way about The Best Friend too. However, with that being said, I felt the lady that was with them, I forget their name, the nurse. The whole time I thought she was just acting her heart out. Like I really thought she was who she was. Like I'll give that her. I'm like, yeah, she feels the most like studied of them all to like really give that style.
Yeah.
The
Kate was okay. Like Kate, I think I've seen Kate in a couple other things too. I don't remember her too much. Like I was like, man, that person looks really familiar. So I'm gonna have to go back and like look who was all in the cast because I have not looked at the cast yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's the issue with this, right? Is like even whenever you mentioned it before, and like whenever I mentioned it and started talking about it, everyone saw it kind of as like the Markiplier show to a degree. Like, hey, it's the show that Markiplier's in. But all that it was is that he was part of the podcast. Like he was the character in the podcast, so they had him reprise his role in this, which is smart. You know, you put a big time YouTuber into it, and it will most likely draw that crowd easy peasy. The issue is outside of him, I don't know if I would have watched this naturally. That's just how it kind of like rolls, you know? I love the concept. I love the show. I really enjoyed it. It definitely would have been one of those shows that if I didn't know Markiplier was in it, but you had me watch it, I would still be like, it was a good show. I liked it a lot. It was very enjoyable. I liked the style, the horror aspect of it. The impending doom, I think, is probably the strongest part of this show. But the thing that like drew me into it initially was Markiplier, like 100%. After doing like In Space and like we watched that on the show and all those different possible endings, I was just excited to see what he would be in next. I think he is a good actor. I think he's learning and growing in each of the roles that he follows afterwards. And this was a different style that I normally don't see him in. And I enjoyed it. Just between me and you, I do think that the strongest aspect of, okay, Molly, calm down. She's been sneezing a lot, and I don't know why she's sneezing. But I think that the best part of the show is the impending doom. The idea of like having to stay up. I don't know about you, dude, but like I watched the first like 6 episodes in a row. I watched all of them in a row. And the number one thing I took from it is how like, oh yeah, just everyone in the world's dead. There's no way anyone's alive except for those like night shift workers. This is literally like night shift propaganda. It's like, hey, be night shift because if this ever happens, you'll live.
It's the propaganda that they're fueling through the American economy.
They're like, we need more night shift workers. We'll release the new COVID, and that's what this will be.
Man. Yeah, no, I enjoyed this show. I did. I thoroughly did. I liked the ending a lot. I think the ending's pretty cool. I expected something like that. See, a lot of people don't like endings like that. Here's the thing.
It's not that I don't like the ending. I have feelings about it, but go ahead and share yours, and then I'll share mine after.
Here's the thing: is like what I love about a good psychological horror film is like the aspects of the unknowing. I love the unknowing. It's like one of my favorite things. Like very Lovecraftian horror type stuff. Like you know, like this descent into madness, and then like there's no hope of coming out. Or there's like something bigger there, but you have to put it together in your head. That's what I like about something like that. Like I've always loved, like one of my favorite horror, like psychological horror films, is The Mist. And the reason why I like that is because you don't know anything past like what happened. You're just crushed at the end where you're just like, there's no hope here. Why is this a thing? What I liked about this though, is this gave you like this eerie feeling, and I think the last shot of the show was very well done, where it showed you know Kate, I think that was her name, Kate, or whatever it was, his girlfriend, like in having the eyes of the Edge of Sleep or whatever it was, or whatever that is.
It's the elephant monster.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, oh
yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the ending was great. I like the only problem I do have with it though is like him being this like all powerful being type thing in a way. I think maybe that's what they say.
So that's the thing about the ending that I feel weird about, right?
Yeah.
Because like one, it ends in a way that like nothing's resolved, right? Nothing's fixed, nothing's good. All they know is that on this island, they're around this whale that apparently protects them from being killed by this elephant monster. And apparently he, along with a handful of other people who have come to this island, are also like super psychics or something like that, or like dream psychics, and they can fight the elephant monster. And so like they're there to train and learn so they can fight and be like against this elephant monster. And it's kind of like weird. It's one of those like it's like a Adventure Time ending almost, where it's like everything in the world's crazy and like over the top, and it's just like it's the psychedelic war elephant, like it's our best friend, he'll protect us, and it's like what the freak are we looking at right now? And that's kind of how I felt like my issue with it's like it was so over the top, like weird, like the idea of them trying to use science to solve it. And the fact that like when they cut into the brain and like it gets really hot and it's like really like they die in their sleep and everything, I was like, cool, we're gonna find out it's gonna be some form of like neurological thing where when you sleep your brain essentially overheats like a CPU or a graphics drive in a computer, and this entity or whatever that's killing all these people are just making their brain like understand or acknowledge something that it can't fathom, and it just it overclocks their brain and kills them. That's what I thought it was going to be like. And then they're like, yeah, this being is a god that is trying to connect with people, and it's all this stuff. But instead it's like, no, this god's good, that god's bad. We're going to teach you how to fight.
Well, so it did give me a vibe of one thing though that I will say, like that whole aspect of that, like the whale and the elephant reminds me of one Stephen King novel that's huge.
It's not just one, it's all of Stephen, because they all take place with the giant turtle. Like
yeah, the giant turtle, and then it, and like, you know, that's the whole thing. Everyone knows the giant turtle and it. But that kind of gave me that kind of vibe where I was like, oh,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's a giant turtle. Like
giant turtle,
like,
the lion turtle in Avatar, like everyone has these kind of styles. It's funny to me because like it's so weird and it's so like over the top to me that it was hard for me to like sit there at the end and feel like I feel satisfied with this ending, because I didn't. And I instantly started looking up, is there going to be a season 2? Because this didn't feel like the end of a series. This felt like the end of like part 1 of a series. But I knew that that's all they had right now, because like Markiplier talked about it on his in a stream where he's like, yeah, we shot all that stuff during COVID, this and this, we had this all set up, we were doing all this stuff. And that's whenever I was kind of sitting there and I'm like, if they ever get greenlit for a season 2, they're going to like fast forward so much in the series, because everyone's going to be so much older. Because if this was back in 2020 or 2019 that they shot this, like, that's 5 years. That's like the equivalent of like Game of Thrones, where you see like Arya's like, I'm a little kid, and then like 3 seasons later, it's just like, I'm adult. I think one thing that I do feel about the ending though is like you mentioned it with Kate coming out of the water and having the eyes, and all those people are waking up with those eyes. I'm like, are they going to change the story from this like lack of sleep, you can't sleep and die, to like a zombie like apocalypse now, with like all these people who were once, who have fallen asleep this way, are now like mystical zombies essentially,
like brainwashed, finally woke.
Well, no, they're dead. Like they're 100%, because like that's the thing, right? When Katie came out of the water, my brain instantly went, okay, they're zombies, because Katie died both in the sleep, and then when that thing crashed and that's in the bottom of the ocean, she shouldn't have been able to like survive. Like her body would have got crushed under the pressure. But then she like shows up and it's like, okay, mystical zombies of some sort. And it's going the like psychological stuff that's going to happen with those type of characters if they do season 2. It's going to be the fear of zombies, which a lot of people think the fear of zombies is the fact that you get bitten, you get turned zombie. That's like the newer age stylization of zombies, where it's just this horde of people. The original like horror of zombies is supposed to be the people you know and love. I think about like the only episode of Walking Dead I liked was the episode of the one dad in the house who has a sniper and he's like shooting everyone, but he refuses to shoot the one because it's his wife.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like he's like afraid to shoot her, like he doesn't want to shoot her. Like that's the original intention of zombies being scary, is like, hey, they're your friends and family you love that are now undead creatures coming for you, and your brain wants to say there's a chance to save them, but you can't. And that's how I think that if they do a second season, that's where they'll go with that, which I had before, because that's a psychological take on the zombie stuff instead of just they're super powerful mental zombies. Woo.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like, I think it's like this, and the thing is I actually am okay with them just ending it.
Yeah.
Just because it makes it like this thing in the back. Like, I sometimes feel like when something's really good and it leaves an eerie part to me, like just this like unsense of unknowing. I actually thoroughly enjoy it. And a lot of people, it drives people nuts, but they're like, what does this mean? This didn't explain this. This didn't do that. I was like, it doesn't have to. Like, it's supposed to be just this story of just, you know, you can piece that stuff together, like kind of like a hidden ending of a video game or something.
Austin,
like,
Austin, I would agree with you on this, but I also feel that you can't do that and create a new issue at the end of the story. Right? If it just ends with them getting to the island, them said like, hey, the whale will protect us, we will survive this, blah blah blah, and that's it. Cool. Ambiguous ending. We don't know if they actually survive, if when they go to sleep at the end, if they're actually going to sleep or if they're permanently dying. We don't know that. The second they have them, like the zombie people, wake up, that's no longer a ending of ambiguity. That's a here's a new issue for season 2, not here's an issue that you can kind of figure out what does this mean, because you have no context for what it is, what it can do, and what it's about. That is a continuation, like a cliffhanger for the next season. That is not ambiguous, like a ending thing. So if they do not do a season 2 to this, I find this series kind of like disappointing ending, because you can't do that. If they were trying to make it like, oh, in the air ending, like cut that zombie bit out. And then if they do a season 2, you begin it with the zombies coming up. That's just my opinion, right? Like, you're 100% entitled to what you think is true. I just personally think that including of those zombie people coming out of it, I'm like, that's a cliffhanger for the next season. That's not a what does it mean ending.
I don't know. I just feel like I like that unknowingness, and I like how they left that, like how that is, because the thing is like, I don't need to know. All I need to know is there's like some war that is coming. That's what he stated, and Mark was like a big part of that war, and that's all I wanted. Like, it was just like, hey, this is it. And I now here's the thing is, I have not listened to the podcast yet, so I don't know anything that like how that like has changed.
There's a lot difference. There's like whole scenes, different characters die, different characters live. Okay. It still, I think, ends close to each other, but I don't think they do the whole zombie thing at the end of it. I don't know. They apparently cut things because of the idea that they're like, hey, these things wouldn't be done very well visually, or this would require a lot of budget visually, which I completely understand that, because when you're doing a podcast and it's audio format, you could just literally say like, oh my gosh, it's a big this, and that. But then in like TV standards, like, we're going to have to CGI that. We don't got that money. Hey, Austin.
Yeah.
You want a hug?
Actually, what's really funny is they just had a whole bunch of those. Like, I bought a 40 pack. Like, actually, Mama Burkhardt can contest to that, but she bought she went and got a whole bunch of like stuff for Friday's party for the kids, and one of them was hugs. I was like, get hugs. They're 1 gram of sugar. You know, I remember growing up, like I said that, like I was like, I remember growing up and I was like, hugs, that's full of sugar, and then like they'd feed us Kool-Aid. You're just like, yeah, actually hugs was healthier for you than that.
Well, they have artificial sugars in it, but yeah, no, I get you.
But you know, yeah, so yeah, and so she did that, and then I made lambus bread for the kids. But
did they go on an adventure to throw the ring into the fire?
I tried to do that. You know, I wasn't. I actually, the wedding that I did on Saturday, they made me hold the rings out, and they were Lord of the Rings fans, and I was seriously going to be like, forge for Mount Doom. You know, like I was like, nah, I'm going to do that. But I did do some silly stuff too. But back to Edge
back to Edge of Sleep. Sorry, I just I started drinking from my hug, and I was like, hold up.
Man, this is gonna be rough because I've been reading, like, I just finished like 3 books right now, and like now I'm gonna have to listen to a podcast about this because I'm very intrigued by this. I think this production was really well done. I hope they get like a season 2 though. I really hope that if I watch the podcast and I think that it deserves a season 2, then I'll do that. But right now I'm okay with it just ending. Like I don't really see. But also too is I understand why people, you know, they want that explanation. I get it. I totally get it.
It's not explanation. You just can't introduce a new problem on the last episode in the last 5 minutes and say that it's a questionable ending, you know? Like, you can't do that. This ain't like what was that movie where like no one knew the ending? It was super like, you know, one time, like the guy who's like crazy, but you don't know if he's actually crazy in a mental institution or if he was actually part of the Shutter Island. Yeah, this ain't Shutter Island where after you watch it, you could restart it and get a different interpretation. Like this just has one interpretation for the ending, is that there's these zombies now that are from the Edge of Sleep. You don't get any information about them and no knowledge of that. That is a season 2 cliffhanger, not like a interpretation ending, Austin.
We'll see. I don't know. I feel like it's just an ending of just being this mysterious thing.
You know what would have been a good ending if they wanted it to be like up to you type deal thing?
It lead it into the Iron Lung movie that he's in?
No, I mean, that would be like a crazy plot twist, but no, I was gonna say like it should have been like him waking up and then looking around and like shaking them, but they're not getting up. And then he's like, oh my gosh, type deal thing. And then it just cuts to him sleeping or something, like something in the way that you don't know if he actually awoke or slept or whatnot.
So the problem that like, I didn't expect the ending like how it was, but like what I felt like that I thought was going to be the ending, I actually like that idea that I came up with. I was like, maybe. And that is like actually Mark, since he's being this all powerful being, I was like, oh, these people are dying because Mark is the regular like Dream. He's like the god of like dreams or something. Like when he doesn't get enough sleep, everyone else can't sleep, so then they die, you know. And it's like, oh, and then when Mark finally falls asleep, these people wake up. And then I was like, nope, they're just
demons. That's the thing. Like, you mentioned the Moist Critical review, which I find funny that you brought that up, because I'm like, oh, I saw that too. He brought up a couple things that I laughed at. I'm like, no, he's 100% true. Like the idea of them being like, oh no, we have to get to this person's house, I'm going to run. And then it's like, bro, everyone's dead around you. Get in a car. Like, you could just take, you've been in multiple people's houses, just take their keys and go. And
that was one thing I was like,
when he said that, I was like, bro, you're right, dude. I didn't
it's
think
like being
about
in
that.
a zombie apocalypse. Like, we need to get there and be like, okay, I ran out of gas in my car. Dude, there's like a whole bunch
you have
of
a
cars
hose?
that probably have
No.
topped off.
Yeah, you have a hose?
No,
Nope. Just steal one from that house.
There's a car that's better on gas mileage over there than your stupid Mazda souped up thing that you got going on. And also too is what's really frustrating is fixing a water pump. That cannot be fixed on those cars. Yeah, some of the acting, some of the like lines were cringy a little bit, but I kind of knew. I was like, okay, this is a low production, but I can look past that. But some of them were very, very cringy, and I was upset with one of them. There was a line that really upset me, and I was like, gosh, why? Why did you have to do that?
The only part that I actually felt like the audio was super cringy was the first like opening scene between him and his friend at the thing. He's like, man, you just fell asleep and then you fell over. Here, let's rewatch it. Like laughing at him. I'm like, you just fell over. Why is that funny? I don't like this. Just seems a little like trying to make it seem like, oh, I'm the Joker. I laugh at your misfortune, and it's like that wasn't really funny though. Like, what are you doing?
I also want to look up where this was filmed at because I'm pretty sure it was Canada.
It was Canada. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense because I actually thought I saw a gas station that looked like a Canadian. I don't know if it's a.
It looks like a Canadian gas station. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a Canaco. I think Canaco is a Canadian gas station, or it's a made-up thing because I saw the leaf and I was like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, no, it was 100% Canadian thing because during COVID, he filmed Papers, Please for his channel. And he talks about going up to Canada for a job and how he's like, it was so hard to get into the country because he had to get into the country. He had to pay to get his work visa. He couldn't get the work visa until he got to the country. He couldn't pay for the work visa until he was in the country, nor could he pay and do all this stuff earlier. Then he had to like isolate for 2 weeks. Then he had to have plans for isolation. And like he went on like a whole rant about it in the Paper Please show. And that he also announced it whenever he was doing it. It's like, yeah, that's why I was in Canada for, was Edge of Sleep. Which is crazy to me that they filmed out in Canada. I don't know if that's anything to do with like the production stuff or the people who like created it or whatnot, or if they just chose Canada for whatever reason.
Well, most of the time, Canadian, like I've seen like a lot of films filmed in Canada, and that's because of two things. That's one, budget-wise, it's cheaper to film in Canada,
Okay.
and two, also Canadian government gives grants to certain productions. Like certain states actually give grants to filmmakers to come and film in their state so that they can bring like, you know, local historic, like, you know, take for example, Shawshank Redemption was filmed 20 minutes from here. And it's like if you look in IMDb, the #1 movie of all time, it's Shawshank Redemption on there, and people love Shawshank. So every year they have the Shawshank Trail. And what was it? Clancy Brown was here this year, and I was so upset that I didn't get to go because I was like, I want to see that guy. And Mr. Krabs is here. But that's the thing is like Canada like likes to film there because like Deadpool's filmed there, but you know Ryan Reynolds is Canadian. But there's a lot of like other productions that were like that. That's like in Germany at one point, video game movies were very. Do you remember like the terrible video game movies like The House of the Dead and like there was a whole bunch of terrible video game movies. Resident Evil is a perfect one. Like Resident Evil 2 and anything after Resident Evil 1.
Okay.
Those were all filmed in Germany because of how it worked. Was if the movie would tank, Germany would pay some amount of the sum of the budget. So like, let's say the budget was like $15 million. Germany would pay 20 million of that dollar. So you would like still make money if your movie tanked because they're like, oh, well, no, we help you because you'll still bring film production here. So, but then that law got changed because they found out that like during like the early 2000s, there was like a span of like these really crappy video game adaptation movies. And they were awful, and you can see that they were all filmed in Germany. Legal Eagle actually did an episode on that, like about I think like 5 years ago. I watched a whole episode that he did on YouTube about how Germany's like laws were like about filmmaking, and I was like, that's pretty interesting that Germany was forking out that kind of money. So I think it was him or it was the other guy that I watched that's like a lawyer on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
But yeah, so this show. I enjoyed it. I think it's great. I'm actually more excited for Iron Lung. I've seen Mark play Iron Lung, so I'm actually more excited for Iron Lung to come out.
I'll be honest.
A good show.
I'll be honest. I'm excited for Iron Lung, not because it's Markiplier doing it or anything of that sort. I watch people play Iron Lung. I have no idea how you make that movie. That I'm not kidding. The story of Iron Lung is literally like, you are a convict. We put you in this machine. You're going to like figure out what's in this like blood pool. And it's like, is that the story? How do you like follow someone for 130 plus minutes as they're just alone inside of a container, just taking pictures outside of just like the cliche, like la 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 la. Oh no, what's that? I'm scared now. Like, what story is going to be told? The only thing I can think about is the idea that the Iron Lung movie is going to take place as the, because in Iron Lung, if you go off the beaten path of one of the things, you find another Iron Lung that's been destroyed. And I'm like, I wonder if the Iron Lung movie is going to be about that Iron Lung and the guy who tried to like get away and like run. I'm like, that would be interesting to have like a movie that's a prequel to the game. Like, that would be cool. I'd be interested on that. I just don't know how they're going to do it.
I think like how I feel like it's probably going to be is just like a descent into madness of like I don't know. Have you ever watched the movie Memento at all?
No.
Okay. So Memento is like Christopher Nolan, the guy that did the Batman movies, like the Dark Knight Rises and all them. It's one of his first movies, and it's about a guy that's trying to catch the killer of his wife. But there's like a whole like psychological aspect of this movie. You'll have to watch it sometime. I think you actually would really enjoy it. But I'm not going to go into the detail like the ending because it kind of ruins the whole movie then. Because even when you watch the beginning of the movie, it ruins the whole movie. So the thing is like I think it's just this descent into madness of like this person confusing like what is real and what is going on, and it's like driving this person mad while they're taking these pictures. I don't know. Like I think that the like the tube or the submarine, I think it's a submarine or the machine or whatever it is. I just feel that maybe that's something that they like do that to psychologically break someone.
I don't think you're wrong. I think it's probably going to be something like that it's like a descent to madness. Yeah. I'm just wondering like how you pull that into a hour and 30 long minute thing.
Oh, I'll do it. If you watch Memento or like in the Mouth of Madness, I think that they can do it that way. But In the Mouth of Madness was also a book by Lovecraft himself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. I will say this. I enjoyed this. I had fun watching it. It was a quick watch.
Yeah, very quick.
I actually finished all the episodes today. Like I forgot all about this because I had so much going on, and then I was like, hey, gotta watch.
I specifically picked it both because of the fact that one, it was enjoyable to me, and two, because of how like quick it was. I'm like, after watching like 14 episodes of like super cringy Tales of the Crypt, having just a good 6-minute solid show would be good for me.
Yeah, I can see
yeah.
that. Well,
no offense to your Tales of the Crypt. It's fine. It's just what it is.
No. It's cheese. It's cheese factor.
It's cheese factory.
But the thing is like I got, after we do our watch here with everything, and it gets back to my turn. I'm going to actually do a psychological show that I've been waiting to do on the podcast, and I think that you will really enjoy it. And it's actually based off of some true events, but it's like written it's like fiction but also non-fiction in a way. So it's pretty cool.
So it means just straight fiction. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. Just
it's
with
like
real aspects.
It's like what was that show? Believe it or not, Fact or Fiction or whatever it's called.
Fact. We made that up.
Fact or
we didn't make that up. We just we exaggerated a lot.
Yeah. It's like, this is actually really happened. When his brother died, he woke up to see his brother because he was having a dream. It really happened, trust us.
And what was scary is you couldn't fact check back then because the internet was kind of crap. So like, you're
no,
like, I don't know.
I just remember as a kid watching that and being terrified every time they're like, it's factual. And then they like explained how it's factual, and it's like, that's not factual at all. No. Why do I care?
You just read a headline.
Yeah, you just read
the article. But yeah.
I could do this on Reddit now. I don't need this show. All right, Austin. Well, I think that basically covers it for this episode of Bros and Shows. So next week, because we were confused, we thought Agatha All Along was already done, but it goes up to at 9 episodes, and I looked it up. Apparently, 8 and 9, episode 8 and 9 is coming out the 30th. We're going to do Agatha All Along, and then we'll be back onto the good old Tales of the Crypt series yet again. So next week is Agatha All Along to finish up our spooky season time here. Austin, I hope you're prepared to watch something that I actually think is a banger beyond bangers right now. Like, I am amazed by how much I'm enjoying the show. I knew I would enjoy it because I'm a theater kid at heart. So like, I don't know if you are. We grew up with like Tales of the Crypt. You were actually in theater. Well, no, you weren't in theater. You were in
Choir.
Choir, yeah. But like in choir, they had you sing theater stuff.
Of course. Been in the opera, you know,
Yeah.
like a lot of cool stuff.
They have you do all that stuff. So maybe you'll enjoy this too, because as I'm watching it, I binged. I'm like, yeah, there's only 6 episodes. Watched all 6, and then it's like, nope, here's episode 7. And I was like, Austin, how could you lie to me? Now I feel frustrated because I'm like, there's more to this. I know there's more to it. All right, Austin. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Bros and Shows. And as always, Austin, thank you for joining me. And for everyone else out there, thank you all so much for stopping by. Thank you all so much for tuning in.